News. Okay, we'll start with this. Former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder had this to say. He said, "When you see the heavyweight division, I kind of agree. It's in its worst moment it's ever been in history. I brought the excitement back to boxing. If I didn't, then why is it so dull, so dead? No fucking excitement without me. We're trying to plan something. Mid to late January 2024 is going to be amazing for me. It's just a matter of time before I will be crowned and back at the top."
Mid to late January.
It just so happens that Tom Brown's TGB Promotions, which is just another way of saying PBC Promotions, it just so happens they've set aside a date in mid-January, January 13th, at the MGM Grand for a card to be televised on pay-per-view. Could that card be Deontay Wilder's next fight? And could Deontay Wilder's next fight be the long-awaited, somewhat anticipated Andy Ruiz Jr. showdown? Or will he be fighting someone else? Is this date they've set aside, does it have anything to do with Deontay? Is he even still on the PBC side of things? I don't know. What I do know is that Deontay Wilder is attributing the resurgence of the heavyweight division to himself when Deontay Wilder, who's often thought of as a postmodern heavyweight, a contemporary heavyweight, he's not actually a contemporary heavyweight. He's actually a relic of the Klitschko era, a remnant. Don't forget that this guy debuted as a professional in 2008. Don't forget that he was around for a sizable chunk of Vladimir Klitschko's reign as a champion. He's not actually a postmodern heavyweight.
People tend to forget that. They tend to forget that Deontay Wilder is from the same cycle of heavyweights as the now retired Alexander Povetkin, the quasi-retired Kubrat Pulev. Deontay Wilder, he's somewhat quasi-retired himself. He sat out this entire year.
Now, the reason that they don't think of Deontay Wilder as a remnant, a relic of the Klitschko era, is because in the Klitschko era, he didn't fight anyone. He didn't do anything. It took him 7 years into his pro career to finally fight for a world title, and when he did, it wasn't against Klitschko. It wasn't against the man to beat at that time. It was against Bermane Stiverne.
Wilder looks at the heavyweight landscape today and says that the excitement is gone, and that's due to his absence. Well, it's definitely due to Wilder, but not for the reasons that he might think.
That things aren't as exciting as they were just a few years ago. Deontay is definitely responsible for that, though not for the reasons that he might think, the ones he might suggest. It actually has more to do with the resurgence of Tyson Fury, him being reintegrated into the world title picture, and how none of that was possible without Deontay Wilder. You see, Deontay Wilder is the one who brought him back into the frame, back into the world title picture, when he deliberately defended his title against him as an alternative to a Joshua fight, an alternative to the undisputed title fight.
Let me paint this picture for you.
Deontay Wilder became WBC champion in 2015, the same year that Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko for 3 of the 4 major alphabet titles at the weight. We know that Fury, he didn't stick around after that. He absconded for 2 years.
The Nandrolone stuff, the UCAT BBBOC stuff, the mental health stuff, you know the story.
It wasn't in 2015 that the heavyweight division was set ablaze. It wasn't until Tyson Fury absconded, vacated the 3 titles he won from Klitschko.
Joseph Parker ended up picking up the WBO. Charles Martin of America, he ended up picking up the IBF. The WBA title, that title remained vacant.
And still, at this time, the heavyweight division was not yet set ablaze. It wasn't set ablaze until Anthony Joshua took on Charles Martin and took the IBF title from him in knockout fashion. I believe it was in just 2 rounds. And suddenly, the heavyweight division was becoming more and more exciting. The surgence of unbeaten champions, Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker, and Deontay Wilder.
Let me refresh your memory that it was actually Anthony Joshua that gave the heavyweight division a shot in the arm. All those fans that he amassed as an amateur that followed him into the pros.
That's actually what brought the excitement and, more importantly, the money to the heavyweight division. It was Anthony Joshua that gave it a shot in the arm, not Deontay Wilder. By that time, Deontay Wilder had been a pro boxer for close to 10 years. What was it, 7 or 8?
Yeah. By the time that Anthony Joshua took the IBF title from Charles Martin, in 2016. Deontay had already been a pro boxer for something like 7, close to 8 years.
Whereas Anthony was on just his 3rd year, going on his 4th year as a pro, already fighting for a title, already playing to very, very large crowds, already on pay-per-view in the United Kingdom. That was in 2016. In 2017, he had the Klitschko fight.
We all know how big the Klitschko fight was. That drew monumental numbers, not just in the UK domestic scene, but elsewhere, in Germany, even here in America. Both Showtime and HBO, those two premium cable networks, then giants in the sport.
It was the Joshua versus Klitschko fight that gave the heavyweight division a shot in the arm and drew worldwide attention, anywhere from the United Kingdom to the United States to as far away as Germany. It was actually that fight that created the exciting landscape that it became. And at that time, it wasn't anything Wilder was doing.
He had his role to play, not saying that he didn't, but it wasn't anything that he was doing, him specifically, that gave the heavyweight division a shot in the arm. Look at who he was fighting at that time. Look at the numbers.
Around that time, look at who Wilder was fighting. Artur Spilka, Chris Arreola. These were not big fights in America. He wasn't putting up monster numbers with those fights with Gerald Washington, Bermane Stiverne for a second time. Contrary to what Deontay Wilder would have you believe, it was not he that reinvigorated this division. No, he was around for some years before Anthony even came into it, and those were the years that many Americans would tell you that the heavyweight division was dead, when the Klitschkos had the run of the place. Yeah, Deontay Wilder's been around that long.
He debuted as a professional in 2008. For the first 3 years of Wilder's career, both the Klitschko brothers were active.
He was around for both. And by the time that Anthony Joshua medals in the Olympics and debuts as a pro in 2013, Deontay's already been a pro for 5 years. And for many of those years, Deontay Wilder was flying low on the radar. It wasn't until circa 2015 and 2016 that he achieved some relevance by becoming a champion, but by that time, you're 7 years into your pro career. And really, it wasn't until Anthony started making waves in the United Kingdom and unifying titles that Wilder finally came into the frame. He being a champion himself, he was a part of that picture, but he's not the one who painted it.
He thinks he's the one who brought excitement to the heavyweight division. No, what you did was bring back Tyson Fury. That's what you did.
And that's why the heavyweight division is the way it is. If not for Wilder voluntarily giving Fury a title shot, he would have had to climb up the ranks, and who knows what would have happened on the way there. You made Fury, having a rematch with him, a priority, more so than undisputed. You admitted that yourself. And that's what led to today's heavyweight division being the way that it is. That's Wilder's contribution.
You didn't bring the excitement. You killed it, along with your career, doing the dance with the devil, doing the dance with Tyson Fury.
Now he hopes to revive his career, saying, "I'm thinking about doing both, UFC and boxing. I'll be a dangerous man in the UFC with 4-ounce gloves. I feel like picking up Big Body and slamming him, then getting on top of him and beating the shit out of him." Deontay Wilder claims he is interested in doing both MMA and boxing, though in truth, I think it's just talk, like most things associated with Deontay Wilder. Yeah, it sounds good, but if you were serious about delving into a new sport, you had a whole year to do that.
You instead pissed a whole year away doing nothing. Now, you can't directly blame Wilder for the Saudis pulling their investment from what was supposed to be his fight with Anthony Joshua. No, you can't blame Wilder for that, but you can blame him for pissing the time away, because when that fell apart, you should have booked yourself a tune-up fight.
Let Deontay Wilder tell the story, and he'll tell you that he's the reason the heavyweight division got a shot in the arm, that he's the one that brought all the excitement to it, yet he was in action late last year, and if he's the life of the party, if that's what he's intended to be, why didn't anybody show up? It's not a secret that the numbers for the Robert Helenius fight, his comeback fight, rebound fight off those 2 back-to-back losses to Tyson Fury, it didn't do no numbers. It didn't do nothing. So how are you the life of the party when you can't draw?
The truth can be sometimes inconvenient and unpleasant, and the truth is that for all of Wilder's talk, that's all it really is. just talk.
Very recently, he stated that he would like to have a face-to-face meeting with Anthony Joshua, and he's willing to go to England to do it because he thinks AJ is afraid of him. All the while, AJ's not in England. He's right here in Texas. How much do you think it costs to go from Tuscaloosa, Alabama to Texas? If this guy was serious about what he was saying, he'd already be on his way there. But he's not serious. He's just talking. When he says he's going to go into mixed martial arts, let me tell you something.
What?
Your people must not like you if they let you do that. Because the only thing that would happen in there is you'd get hurt. You'd get hurt real bad because it's not like you mastered boxing. You're going to master MMA now?
Don't you remember what he said a few years ago? He's the guy that said he doesn't need skill because he has power.
And this guy wants to pick up a new discipline. Listen, you won't get far in the octagon with that mentality, and perhaps the silver lining is he's just talking anyway. He's not serious. America's fascination with big talkers.
These guys that can talk a good one. Your Adrian Broners, your Keith Thurmans, in this instance, your Deontay Wilder. So many are enamored with what he says, they pay little to no attention to what he does or what he doesn't do.
Deontay Wilder's real contribution to the heavyweight division is you brought Tyson Fury back to it. You brought him back into the frame, into the world title picture. You gave him a title shot he didn't earn, he didn't deserve, a title shot that you could have given to Dillian Whyte. I think he deserved it more, at least at that time, but you were focused on Fury. Gave the shot to Fury, and it's not because of how great he thought Fury was. He said it himself in the press conference for the second fight, for their rematch, that Tyson Fury was on drugs and he was obese, contemplating suicide. This is when Wilder chose to bring him back. This is when Wilder chose to fight him. And it backfired. It blew up in his face. And that's his contribution. Bringing Fury back, who made a mess of everything. And if every decision you made led you to Tyson Fury beating the crap out of you 2 times, what does that tell you? Did you make the right decisions? Doesn't look like it to me.
But that's just if you ask me.
Somebody else try and tell you it was a good idea for Wilder to go fooling around with that guy. Speaking of that guy, Tyson Fury, and what used to be one of his biggest supporters, Simon Jordan, has weighed in on the reportedly low pay-per-view numbers for Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. He believes a fight between Joshua and Ngannou would have been more of a success. Could Jordan be right? The number that Simon Jordan has floated out there for what this fight did is in the neighborhood of 400,000 pay-per-view buys. I don't know if that's a sum total or if it's in addition to what the fight did in the US market, 56,000 on ESPN Plus and another 11,000 on conventional cable and satellite. In either scenario, that's not a good number. Given what the Saudis spent to pay those guys and orchestrate the entire event, all the legends that they flew out there.
Simon Jordan is now asking, is Fury as big a deal as we think he is?
Simon's change of heart when it comes to Tyson Fury and what's motivating these questions, it's not without its ulterior motives. You know, very recently, Tyson Fury and the people at Talk Sport had a falling out. You may have heard that Tyson Fury banned them from covering the Ngannou fight, and to that, Simon Jordan is taking the gloves off. Simon Jordan, who says, is Fury as big a deal as we think he is? Because I think Joshua puts more eyes on the prize. He's had 12 world title fights, and his body of work is more significant. I think if you'd have put Joshua in there with Ngannou, you'd have got more. And I have to agree. In fact, I said so myself before I even caught wind of these quotes from Simon, that Anthony is in fact a bigger draw than Tyson Fury in every way. Belt or no belt. That's why he's on the Forbes list and Fury isn't. And both Frank Warren and Bob Arum have worked tirelessly to try to turn Tyson Fury into a draw unto himself, but it's just not working. Not even with a major cash injection from Saudi Arabian royalty can you make this guy appealing.
It was Top Rank's Bruce Trempler that let the cat out of the bag. That Top Rank, while involved with the second Wilder versus Fury fight, all that fight did was lose them money. It didn't break even. And the third fight, that fight sold less pay-per-views than the second one did.
When you take a step back and you look at the whole picture, what you see is that Top Rank, try as they might with Tyson Fury, all he's done is cost them millions upon millions. You know, that Tom Schwartz fight, that didn't sell anything. How much did they pay him for that? And what about the Otto Wallin fight? That didn't sell nothing either. The Wilder rematch, that didn't break even, and the third fight sold less pay-per-views than the second one did.
The irony is, for all the time that Tyson Fury spent talking down Alexander Usyk and his marquee value, the fight with Usyk would have sold more pay-per-views than the fight that he just had with Francis Ngannou. You could do at least $1 million with the undisputed heavyweight title fight.
The irony is that there are fights that Usyk has already had that did better at the box office than this one did, than Fury versus Ngannou, Usyk versus Bellew, Usyk versus Chisora, Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 1 and 2. All of those fights did better at the box office than Fury versus Ngannou. So what does that tell you?
Fury must have these people under some kind of gypsy spell, some kind of gypsy magic to where they don't think.
Though it doesn't work on me, I see through his bullshit. I always have, and I knew that Alexander Usyk is in fact a bigger draw in the sport of boxing than Francis Ngannou is a draw in the sport of mixed martial arts. And Ngannou, for all his fame, he's not actually a bigger name than Alexander Usyk. And the idea that Usyk has no value in the UK market, where he's been catering, where he's been fighting for the last 4 years.
It's gotta be gypsy magic. You managed to convince people that you versus Ngannou was in any way, shape, or form bigger than you versus Usyk, even though Usyk has already done better numbers than Ngannou.
They're saying the fight's gonna get rescheduled to February. The best thing Tyson Fury can do now is lose with honor, lose with dignity. And I do think he's going to lose. Can't be in good spirits disgracing not just the UK boxing scene, but boxing as a sport, and what it means to be a champion within it, that you let a novice sit you on your back pocket, a novice you said you were gonna take to school.
Now, some people don't even think you beat him.
If you think that Tyson Fury is slipping and he's in decline, or you think he was always overrated, or maybe it's a little bit of both. Either way, the best thing that can happen now is he goes in there with Usyk and he loses and he gives up the belt and the sport can move on.
It's allowed to move on because he can't stifle it anymore.